Why should you choose Nolf, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Fairmont City? Why wouldn't you choose them? At Nolf, their sales are speedy and include upfront and straightforward pricing. If it's service and parts you're after, they have skilled technicians who are factory trained while offering knowledgeable parts experts. Maybe you need Nolf's full service body shop offering top quality collision repair to all makes and models of cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Or do you want to cruise the highway in a clean, shiny vehicle thanks to Nolf's detailing service? No matter your needs, Nolf, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Fairmont City is there for you. Find out more at nolfchryslerdodge.com.
Yeah, this is a special remote edition of Nolf Bites. Chris Rossetti here in balmy, comparably speaking, Mechanicsburg, PA. Ronnie Geist in what I assume is a southern snowy Clarion County right now. But Ronnie, thanks for joining us here.
Yeah, no problem. It's definitely a winter wonderland out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Port Allegheny's glad it's playing tomorrow's game and is already down here they actually got the practice at Penn State's Hubala, however you pronounce it, facility today, the indoor practice facility at Penn State on their way down.
Well, I can't think that they would shy away from a little bit of snow on the turf if the game was played that way.
No, I don't think it's gonna be something that Port Allegheny goes, I don't want to deal with. Of course, everybody knows right now a historical week here in District 9. Two District 9 teams playing for PIAA titles. Port Allegany against Bishop Guilfoyle at 1 p.m. on Thursday, which is tomorrow. And then on Friday, Central Clarion against Troy in 2A. First time in District 9 history, two teams have made the state championship game in the same year. And had an opportunity to coach in one of these a couple of years ago. Ronnie, what's going through coaches and players' minds right now?
You like to think it's just normal everyday things, but even as a coach, it's a little bit different. Feels different. Talking to the kids beforehand, um, you're constantly looking over, thinking, is this X right? Is that O right? Where do we go from here? How do we adjust? Because every team has a yin to your yang, so you have to be able to figure it out on the fly. And playing in the biggest moment makes it the hardest.
You had an opportunity to coach against both of these teams this year, both Red Bank or both Port Allegany twice and Central Clarion once. Obviously, the outcomes weren't what you would have wanted them like at Red Bank, but I mean, these two teams have earned their way here, haven't they?
Without a doubt. I mean, they both have done everything that you need to do to be to that point. It doesn't make it feel any better that we're not the team there, but it also kind of makes it the pain of defeat a little less when three of your losses come to teams that are playing in the state championship. Um, Clarion's just loaded, man. As a coach, we always look for weaknesses or places we can exploit, but when you're playing Clarion, I'm sure every coach in the district, every coach that's played them, there's just no room for error there. Obviously everyone knows about Ferguson, but they can run the ball, they can throw the ball, they can block. I mean, they can run it for 5 yards every play straight up the middle. It's just tough sledding for them. You have to think, playing Port Allegany, obviously it sounds easy. You stop one guy, but it just so happens that one guy has 50 touchdowns and 3,100 yards rushing. That's not exactly the easiest thing in the world.
Where it really starts. I mean, we talked about this so often when we had our shows during the regular season this year. Where it really starts for both of these teams is up front. The offensive and defensive lines for both of these teams are championship lines, and that's why they're playing for championships.
No doubt. We're lucky to have multiple films on these opponents. So, a lot of coaches don't like to admit it, but they have tendencies. They do things. They run certain things. So, we could, for lack of a better term, kind of load up and get ready for what we think they do well. But when you got an offensive line like Port, they can just point out, we're coming right there. And not a lot of single A teams can stop that, especially when you've got two generational linemen plus a generational running back that, after we played them, I said to Jason Huffman, who played, high level Division II football, you know, the way he runs the ball, we had guys clean shots, where you just think he's going down. He just doesn't. Now combine that with probably the best line in single A, that's tough sledding.
Did the result last week for Port Allegany against Fort Cherry surprise you at all?
It did. I mean, I I thought we had a good shot at beating Fort Cherry last year. I mean, I thought that we were the team that could do it. But I think if you ask any of us coaches from Red Bank, Port Allegany was this good last year. It just so happened that, you know, we Red Bank, we had a lot of talent on the field in positions where they couldn't probably defend it the best possible way. But, they were really, really good last year. You know, outside of Fort Cherry, no one slowed us down with the exception of Port Allegany. You give some of those kids a year to mature and it becomes tough.
And then, I mean, what Central Clarion did to South Park, I mean, it was almost over before it started. Everybody had heard about those South Park linemen coming in. They've got this great running back. They're going to control the clock and take Central Clarion's offense off the field. And well, frankly, none of that happened.
From an outsider's perspective, obviously, I didn't see the film on South Park, but if Clarion gets up 2 scores on you with that defense, it's tough. And those 2 early scores, you know, they change things. When an offense is chasing points, it becomes a different game. And you don't want to chase points against Clarion because they can score at any time. I would say that um, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I don't think that I don't think Clarion can lose. I mean, I've watched some film just because I'm kind of a nerd that way on Troy, and they're a good team. But listen, when before the merger, anytime you played CL, you might win it, but you knew you were going to be in a fight. Same way with Clarion, and now with the North Clarion kids, you know that's just a breed of tough individuals all around. And now you put an absolute monster like Ferguson in the back. They got as good of a coaching staff as there is. I have a hard time imagining that Clarion doesn't. I mean, I'm going to say I think Clarion by 3 scores. I mean, I don't think it's close personally.
You and I are on the same page there, Ronnie. I mean, I don't, and I'm sure Troy's going to see this video and they're going to play it in their
Right.
locker room and all that stuff that we know happens. But I don't think it matters. I really don't. And I'm not trying to jinx them or do anything like that. It is, and I've said this to anybody who wants to hear it. I've been doing this. This is my 27th football season in District 9. And there's not a football team that even comes close to this Central Clarion team that I've witnessed in my 27 years here. Because, and I say that because there were some great teams. And I mean, there were great Kerwinsville teams that could line up and play smash mouth football. There was that Port Allegany team in 2012 that could throw the ball all over the field. This Central Clarion team is like both of those teams. Like if you concentrate on taking away Jace throwing the football, he's going to beat you with his legs, or Noah's going to beat you with his legs, or Ethan's going to beat you. Ethan Rex is going to beat you with his legs. And if you concentrate on taking away Jace's running ability, they've got 4 wide receivers that could have started for anybody in the state right now. And, I don't know how you defend them defensively.
I can tell you from the past 2 years, our general plan, because Tyson said everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And our general plan was we're going to sell out to stop the run and make you throw the ball to beat us. We felt that they had good athletes, we had good athletes. Let's take our chance. But you can't do that. Like they're so good all around. I mean, I, I don't honestly see a weakness. You as a coach, you kind of go across the board. Can I win this matchup? Can I win that matchup? I mean, we were a pretty good single A team, and there wasn't a matchup on Clarion where we felt 100%. You always have a couple that you can,
Yeah,
this is a
sure.
50%er, right? But in years past, we could always line up and say, we're going to win this battle. Against Clarion, there's no team in Double A football that's lining up and saying, we can definitely win this battle.
On top of everything else, they may have the best special teams in the state in Double A too. I mean,
Right?
I don't know if there's another Double A team that sends out a kicker like Thomas Euchert, who in terrible conditions. I mean, it wasn't maybe the worst conditions I've ever covered a football game in, but wasn't the what was it was in the top 5 or 10. They sent him out to kick a 39-yard field goal on a snow-covered, icy field in bitter cold. No problem. Later, and that's when it's 0-0, where I think that's got all kinds of pressure on that kid, right? And the kid hadn't kicked in 3 weeks. And then later in the game, they send him out against the wind to kick a 37-yard field goal, and he drives it right through the wind. And that doesn't even account for the touchbacks. He's a touchback machine. And what happens when you're starting drives at the 20 versus starting drives at the 35 or 40?
Especially when you're a team like South Park, if that kicker pins you back every kickoff, now, that 3 yards in a cloud of dust is one thing, but when there's no dust behind those 3 yards, it becomes a long field. And if you're one dimensional, from everything I've seen, Troy's not a one dimensional team. They can do multiple things. But when you're a South Park, that becomes tough.
Yeah.
That kicker's backing you up. And, a lot of times, you know, you know, Laws used to say special teams is a huge part of each game. If you can win the special teams battle, you know, that that's a huge deal. Well, I mean, sometimes a kickoff is it's the play that gets the band playing. That's the one that kicks it off. And, you know, if you can score a touchdown or flip the field on a kickoff, that's huge. I just don't. Clarion doesn't have a weakness, man.
And I mean, we'll get to Port here in a second, but like, is Jace Ferguson's the best football player I've seen in District 9. He's not the best I've ever seen. When I was in high school, I was at Norwin. I didn't play football, but we played a playoff game against Brandon Short and McKeesport. Brandon Short's probably the best high school football player I've ever seen live. Guy played multiple, 10 years at least in the NFL. But Jace Ferguson's the best District 9 football player I've seen in 27 years. Can you think of, I mean, again, like he runs like you did, Ronnie. He wants to run people over, but he throws the ball like Jake Doherty. I mean, it just, or Brandon Bain. It just like he's and then that's not even taking into account what he does defensively, where he might be their best defensive football player.
Right. If you're talking total whole
Yeah, I'm talking total
football player. Yeah, I mean, from offense to defense, and the thing that a lot of fans may not see that a coach does, there's times where, one of his players takes a big hit and he runs over and picks him up off the ground. Obviously, I'm not there, but I'm sure he's saying, let's go, you're all right, get back at the huddle. You could tell that he leads not only by example, but, he kind of forces that, like, this is how we play, this is what's expected of us. Clarion and all the good teams, you play to the line, right? You always hear play to the whistle, but you play to the line of, all right, maybe we went a little too far there. Like you have to have that mentality of like, I'm coming to get it and there's nothing you can do about it. And I think Clarion has that. Now, the only person that I can think of since, 99, I mean, Hayden Johnson's probably the only one that I can think of, the all around that did everything. Obviously, Hayden played in a different style of offense. The offense that Clarion runs allows a lot of things to happen that, a traditional wing T running team probably doesn't allow as much. Um, so, but I don't disagree with you. Ferguson, it helps to have a complement of other athletes back there too. When you're,
He'll be the first. He'll be the first one to tell you that. He'll be the first one to
yeah,
point to the rest of those guys and say, "Hey, they're the reason I can do what I can do." Speaking of generational talents, I mean, Aiden Bliss, and you talked about him a little earlier. Ronnie, he's the kind of running back, and again, I didn't play at a competitive level. I played backyard football and that, but he's the kind of running back that when he hits you, maybe the first time you get up, maybe the second time you get up, but about the fourth or fifth time, you don't want to get up anymore.
you don't, and you can't teach that. I've taught running backs, I've taught linebackers. I was a running back. You know, Actually, Wes Tosh, who's on our staff now, he was my offense coordinator when I played, and I can remember him. I put a move on someone. I don't know, got some yardage. He come over, grabbed me by the face mask, and said, "Run him over." You run them over in the first and second quarters. The third and fourth, they just get out of your way. They get tired of it. They don't want it. But
That was the kind of
what you
running
do,
back you were, Ronnie. That is the kind of running back you were.
right? I mean, I wasn't smart enough to know that if I just got around them, he maybe couldn't catch me.
But there's an old schoolness to Aiden's game, and I mean he's coming at you at 6 foot, 220 pounds. I asked him yesterday. People may have saw the video today. I asked him about what's he playing at. He's playing at 220. I mean that's an offensive lineman on most single A teams, not a running back.
And he blocks like an offensive lineman. There's plays against us that I can show you on film where, the ball's going someplace else and he's drilling. He just wants to get active. He just finds work and he's just out there. He'll run by you. He'll put moves on people, but a lot of people want to do that first. Like I think in his mentality, he's in his head, he's literally scoring a touchdown on every single play.
You were a wrestler in high school, and Port Allegheny's got a bunch of wrestlers. Central Clarion, it's a little bit more mixed. Port Allegheny's got a lot of wrestlers in key positions. Is there a different mentality that wrestlers have?
Yeah, of course. I I joke with the guys at work that there's nothing fun about wrestling. Not a thing. Even when you get your hand raised, it's not fun. Because you probably had to whatever lose 30 pounds to get down to your wrestling weight. And for the last 4 days, your partner in the room's been pounding on you. You know, there's nothing good about it. So there is a toughness that comes with that. I think a lot of good high school running backs, a lot of good high school linemen are definitely wrestlers. Um, Wrestlers have a set of hips that good wrestlers have hips that you can't really necessarily teach. For anyone that was a wrestler, they would understand, but when you move with your hips, different things happen. So I don't just get hit and knocked down, and I think up there at Port, they go hand in hand in a small school. In order to be successful, your best athletes have to play football. They have to play baseball. They have to play track. Whatever sport you are going to be good in, your best athletes have to do it. And Port's doing that right now. They're putting their best athletes on the mat.
I think the most impressive thing about that football team is they are a throwback. They're
Yeah.
basically they're telling you what they're going to do. They're just telling you they're going to do it better than you do it. And that's got to be demoralizing at some point, especially when it works.
I think not only that, I'll touch on that, but the other part is you look on their sidelines and there's 8 kids standing over there. They are what a single A school is. They are tiny. They're not walking out with 40 or 50 guys on Friday nights. I'm going to guess they when healthy, 25, 30 maybe at the most. And that's probably pushing it. But as far as that mentality, the coach always says before the game, every interview, we got to control the line of scrimmage. And that is driven home. I can promise you from up there in the mountains and the woods, when they're sitting in their tree stands, their dad's telling them, if you can't control that line of scrimmage, we can't play football. Because, it goes back to being the tough runner. If you're a defensive lineman and you know that offensive lineman's coming down and smacking you in the mouth for 40, 50 plays a game, it's demoralizing.
Yeah, there's no question. You got to witness it firsthand in New Bethlehem and Fairmont City and Hawthorne and all those communities that make up the Red Bank Valley School District. What does even playing in a state championship game mean to a community, especially a small communities like the ones that are involved in this game?
It's kind of hard to put words to it. It's hard to explain. I'm a small part, but you know, local businesses come out. They we had businesses donate, you know, time, money. Uh, it You realize that something tiny that really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of life. High school football doesn't mean anything. Uh, you know, it's just a fun time for kids. But you realize what it means to people to be able to say, "Hey, my football team, right, or my cousin's kid plays on that team, and they're going to Hershey." Like,
There seems to me that and I've seen this all around, and I've talked to different people the last few days. It brings not just the communities together. I think it's brought the district together. I know the weather is terrible, and who knows if they'll actually end up being able to make it in time. But Central Clarion wants to be there in time to watch Port Allegany play next tomorrow. The Seen plenty of things like there was a great photo. They have the Grinch sitting in the back of the Shingle House, which is Oswego Valley School District. The Shingle House police car, probably the only police car in Shingle House, and it said arrested for rooting against the Gators. Saw Keystone put out something on their football Facebook wishing both Port Allegany and Central Clarion the best of luck. I've seen the stuff that you've put out there. There's a pride within District 9 that is unique, I think, to completely rural school districts, or rural districts. There aren't very many districts where your biggest town is basically Du Bois, and they're basically just a bunch of collection of small, tiny towns where we all know, we all live there. There's nothing to do, and I sense a pride among not just District 9 football teams, but just District 9 in general, what's going on right now. And I think it's like, hey, look at us. We can do this too. You may look beyond us. We may be a small, tiny places, but we're capable of playing with the big boys.
well, yeah, I mean, I think if you look, District 9, and there might be one or two other districts in the state that have never won a state title. And I mean, when I played in college, I can remember people being like, District 9, where's that? What's that? You know, and anyone that does well inside the district, it's kind of like, when you have a little brother, it's all right for you to pick on them, but it ain't all right for someone else to. And at the end of the day, you know, they represent us, we represent them. When we went to the state championship, there were people reaching out that I hadn't talked to for years. Hey, man, we're watching it. We've watched every game. Go get it. It it really does bring these small little towns that, because we had a rich football history for a long time. And I'm sure there's people that, oh, that team from East Brady would have won the state title if they'd have had it back.
Yeah, they just never had the opportunity. Some of those schools, I mean,
Right.
you go back to the 70s, and there was like a 3 or 4 year span of time where teams from Clarion County made the state championship game in basketball, and it was like different schools, and that just tells you, there was AC Valley was in there, East Brady was in there, Union was in there. I want to say maybe even like Carn City or somebody like that was in there, and it was multiple different schools, and that just tells you the athletic talent that had come through. And then, when by the time the state playoffs started, I mean, the second year of the state playoffs, Keystone goes to the championship game. I'm sure people in District 9 football were thinking at the time, hey, this is going to happen all the time. And then it didn't. And, Smethport made it in 92. So you got 89 and 92. And so, yeah, you're probably sitting around thinking at that point in time, if you're a District 9 football fan, hey, this is going to happen a lot. And then it went from 92 until you guys at Red Bank did it in 2021. And let's be honest, Ronnie, I mean, that was a little bit of an upset of Bishop Canavan that year, and the way that game unfolded. And you guys celebrated after the semifinal game, and deservedly so. I'm not criticizing. I'm just meaning you guys celebrated like you'd won a championship because of the way that game went, the odds against you winning it and all that. What I saw on Friday night from Central Clarion was they were on a business trip. Like they thought they were going to be there. There was no celebration of, hey, we won this game. I thought something really telling, and I used it in my story. After they beat Penn Cambria, one of the mom photographers wanted to take a team photo, and Doug Nepp, the assistant coach, comes running up and goes, we aren't taking no freaking team photo. We still have 2 more wins to get. Look, to win a state championship, you got to believe you can win a state championship. That is step number 1 to tackling the WPIAA or District 3 or any of those other districts, District 6, District 10, that have had a long, rich history of doing that. You've got to believe that you can win it. And I think both of these teams believe they can win it.
Well, listen, if you don't believe in yourself, why should anybody else? And I believe that you've got to tell yourself and you've got to tell your team, this is the standard, and we're not accepting anything less of that. And I think Clarion felt that last year's loss was a huge disappointment, right, wrong, or the other. And that's great. They took it into this year and said, we're not settling for anything other than, let's win the last one. The last one's not the district championship. For years, the mentality had always been that locally, you win the district championship, and then you got to go play one of the monsters. And it was like, well, if you can stay close. I mean, I can remember growing up, they played this team close. It was 28-7, or this team was really good. They lost by whatever, 1 touchdown. Like, it was never an expectation of this is what we're going to do. Kudos to them. Kudos to them for having the guts to stand on that and say, like, this is what we're going to do.
The interesting thing was, I was talking to Aiden Bliss in that interview that played earlier today, and I asked him, when did you think you could win a state championship in football? 5th grade. He's like, Harbacks came out for football in 5th grade and in our Pee Wee team. And he was like the last missing piece that we needed on the line. And we thought we had a team that could go and do something like that back then. And, again, some people might scoff at that or say, well, whatever. But that just shows you the mentality that those kids had, where maybe some of us are surprised that they're here. They're not surprised that they're here.
Nor should they be. If you put the work in, that's what it's all about. If you're not willing to put the work in, my dad used to say people cry at the end because they know it's over. There is no another game, right? If you did everything you could do from the start, then there's nothing to cry about. You lost to, or you got struck out by a better guy, or you got pinned by a better guy. But if you're doing everything, which clearly the mentality's there for Port, we're going to control the line of scrimmage, the attitude's there. They're going to come out, they're going to smash on people, and they got the people to do it. I think it's awesome.
And I think the other cool thing that I think happens is like, so, I had the opportunity of broadcasting the game, the Central Clarion game, an audio broadcast. And again, for people who don't know, we're going to be doing audio broadcasts of both games, 12:30 airtime on Thursday, 12:30 airtime on Friday. Andy Close and I in the game on Thursday. Larry Weiser and I on the game on Friday. But and just go to d9and10sports.com to listen to it, not watch it. You can't watch it. Got to pay to watch it or get PCN to watch it. But you can listen to it if you don't want to pay, or if you want the local perspective. And that gets me to Larry Weiser. And he was obviously coaching at Clarion High School since 1972. Being able to do that semifinal game with him, Ronnie, and looking over at him when he realized that they were that much better. It was like a little kid in a candy shop. It was so fun to watch because so often they had teams that were just that close. And he was a big proponent of those two programs coming together and becoming one program. And they fought that for a long time. There were a lot of people, more people on the CO end than the Clarion end, but people on both ends of that didn't want those programs to co-op. You think anybody's complaining about them being co-op right now?
I don't think. The thing we talked about, Larry, I played against some of Larry's great teams. I think it was their 2000 team was absolutely loaded.
Yeah, it was great.
I mean, they if the divisions were now were then like they are now, this probably isn't Clarion's first trip. It's probably not Karn City. Karn City probably goes. The separations of those divisions definitely helped.
Yeah, and Bob Tonkin, the late Bob Tonkin. It's bittersweet. Bob was the District 9 chairperson for football for the longest time, for as many years as I can remember. And Bob fought and fought and fought for the 6 classifications. He thought that 6 classifications would be beneficial to small rural school districts like we have in District 9. And he was right. I know there's people out there. There are people out there that are watching this. I know some people over in District 10. A lot of people in the Whitfield don't like 6 classifications. 6 classifications is working the way it's supposed to be working. It's giving kids in places like District 9 an opportunity they would have never had. But Bob passed away there in May, and so it's bittersweet because his dream has become a reality, but he's not here to see that reality. And he meant so much to so many. I mean, heck, he coached at Red Bank for a while. He coached at Cameron for a while. He coached at, it was the AD at Brookville for a while. I mean, his fingerprints are all over District 9. And, I think that you make a really good point there about the classifications, and Bob gets all a lot. He used up all his political capital that he had gained over the years to get us to where we're at now. And, I know not everybody believes in the same thing when it comes to religion, but if you believe in religion, you got to wonder if Bob's not pulling some strings up there right
now. Well, I'm not complaining that if he is, that's for sure.
No question. So everybody knows my predictions. I've split on this. I said that Bishop Guilfoyle is going to beat Port Allegany and that Central Clarion is going to beat Troy. My stuff's out there every day, every week. Ronnie, your thoughts?
I think the only way Clarion doesn't become District 9's first state champion is if Port does it the game before. Port's got the tough road. Bishop Guilfoyle, they're going to be easily the most thorough, put together team that they'll play, and that includes, our own team. I feel like they can run the ball, they can throw the ball, they got a pretty good quarterback. I mean, here's what I'll tell you. If Port wins, I think they squeak it out. But I'm probably giving them 60% chance. I guess I won't step out.
You're giving them, I guess, more of a chance than I am.
Well, listen,
and that's that. And I hope, and folks, if you're watching this, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I mean, I'll be the first one to go, hey, maybe I hope Justin Minkowski puts my stuff up in the locker room and says Rossetti doesn't believe in us. Okay. I hope you use me as motivation. If you want to point to me at the end, if you win the game and go, take that one, Rossetti, I'm 100% okay with that.
But listen, I think that we had the perfect game plan to beat them. Defensively, I felt when we left there, I thought we just got beat by a much better team. Even with what I thought was a perfect game plan, we didn't have the guys to do it. And we had 3 years of film, enough Blaine does enough analytical data to tell you how many times they sneezed on the bus ride to the place. I mean, we had everything that you have, and it didn't matter. So that's why I think Port has a shot. You're giving that other team a week to prepare, and they've never seen anything like Bliss. So I think they have a chance. I don't think they have a good chance with Clarion.
I hear that. Hey, Ronnie, this is our last edition of Nolf Bites, and what a ride it's been this year. I've had a lot of fun doing this with you and with Andy Byers, and we put this one together at the last minute. But this has been a heck of a show. And folks, get down to Nolf Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram and check out with Ronnie or Andy, and they'll get you some great deals.
Hey, if you don't mind, I just want to say thank you to the Nolf for allowing this, for us to broadcast this. Randy and Mark Nolf are two of the nicest people I know. They do a ton for the communities. They do a ton for everyone. I can't be more thankful to them. And I don't get to do it much, but I want to thank my wife for putting up with me being a football coach and her putting the kids to sleep while I'm on the phone talking football.
Ditto that, Ronnie. I got a chance to get to know the Nolfs a little bit better this year because we did the show there, and everything you say about them is 100% what I've found. And they've always been supportive of whatever I've done, wherever I've done it. And we can't. It's great to be able to do this, but this is a full-time business, and I can't do it without support of the great local businesses. And there's just so many over both District 9 and now starting in District 10 as well. And folks like the Nolfs, they care about their community, and that's really important. And that's there's not a whole lot more you can say about that. And Ronnie, wives are the best. My wife, Shanessa, I mean, my goodness, this is the second time I've been in Mechanicsburg in 3 weeks. I mean, now I don't have kids like you that I have to worry about getting put to bed and stuff, but there are a lot of lonely nights that she spends at home because I'm out covering a football game or a basketball game or a baseball game or whatever. And now I'm on the road again for a couple more days and all that stuff. So you're 100% right there. The old saying is that behind every great man is a great woman, and I think we can both say that.
It's short, yeah.
So thanks, Ronnie. And folks, that'll do it here on Nolf Bites.